So we have done with the difference between report filter and view filter, and we do have report limit. So we'll discuss after the completion of types of filters. So in report filter, we do have different types of filters. So importantly, we do have attribute qualification, set qualification, shortcut to filter, shortcut to report, and advanced qualification. Let's go back to filters, right click, new, filter. So here, just double click on this. So we do have these 5 types of filters. So we have attribute qualification, set qualification, shortcut to report, shortcut to filter, and we have advanced qualification. So first look into this attribute qualification. So on top of attributes, we can apply filter condition. Let's say if you want, you can make use of hierarchies, the existing hierarchies, or you can go back to this path, just click on this. And if you want to apply filter condition on top of products, let's say category, product category. So just select category, and we have few options here. So you can select elements, ID form, description form. So when you select elements, so you're going to get those naming conventions. Let's say I want to select books, electronics, movies, and music. So first I will go for books. So click OK. This is category books. Click on save. So have a filter condition here, category equal to books. Go back to reports. So let me create a new report here. So let me use product related information category and subcategory. So let's go for metrics, sales metrics. We have profit. Let me go for revenue as well. So before execution, I actually created a filter condition, category books. Go back to public objects, filters, and just right click, add to report filter. Okay. So now let me save and close. Let's save before execution. Just save category, subcategory by sales. Let's execute this report. We actually applied a filter condition. That's what on top of category equal to books. So if you want to verify the SQL, go back to SQL, and you can see here, you can check that condition, the where clause. So category in 1. So we have selected books, and you can see this particular category ID. So you can see the filter condition on top of category ID, correct? It's not on top of description. By default, we are getting the filter condition on top of ID form. Okay, but still you can make use of description form or ID form. So it depends. So let's save and close. And if you want, you can change the filter condition. Go back to filters. So we have category equal to books, right? Let's edit. Double click on this. Instead of elements, what you can do is you can also apply filter condition on top of ID forms, and you have an option to go for exactly. You can select exactly 1 or exactly 2, or you have an option to go for in list or not in list. So not in list or in list, you can type in straight away. So 1,2, or if you have, let's say if you have few set of values, if you want to apply condition on top of few set of values, and if you want to import, you can make use of a CSV file with comma separated values, and you can import those values. So let me do that actually. So let's go back to, let me create a notepad. See here we have only few values, right, for books, but I'm going to use 1, 2, 3. Let me use 1 comma 1, 2, 3. So I'm not using any comma here. Just you can use in an individual or a kind of a line. So books. Let's click on save. So now you can make use of import. It helps a lot. Let's say you have United States information kind of data. If you have states, right, US states, shortcut state codes, okay, some shortcut names, right? So state codes, we have short names. So, and if you want to apply filter already, if you have those naming conventions in a notepad or somewhere else, right, you can capture that and you can import that particular information into MicroStrategy in list, and you can apply a filter condition on top of that. So 1 second, let's wait, sorry for that. Oh, so let me close. I need to reopen once again. So let's open this MicroStrategy. So we have this report, and actually have a filter, right? Let's open the filter straight away. Edit filter, double click, and you can click on drop down, make use of ID form, drop down in list. So click on import. So let's wait, let's see how it goes. If it is taking more time, or if you face any issues, like we can type in straight away. So okay, so maybe it's better we can skip this. Not sure, maybe some maybe space issue. Or let's close this. This might be the problem with the space. I'm not sure. It's good actually. So we have no issues with the memory as well. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to this. Like let's create the report here. Filters. Okay. So let me edit this same. Edit. Instead of books, now I can type in, right? So instead of going for the in list import, so I can type in 1 comma 2 comma 3. So let's see. So click OK. So now save and close. Now go back to reports folder, execute this report, category wise, subcategory wise sales. So we are going to get books, electronics, movies. Okay. So if you want to know the ID forms, you can make use of attribute forms ID. So you can see 1, 2, 3. That's what the data we loaded. So go back to SQL view, scroll down. You can see category ID. That's what in list 1, 2, 3. So, and we have different filters as well, like different, we can make use of ID form, but we have an option to go for filter condition on top of data attributes. So let's say, so let's go back to filter. So before going for date related columns, so let me create another filter. Let me showcase few of the options. So let's just double click attribute qualification. It's on top of category. So we have ID form and description form, right? So you have an option to go for between operator. If you have more number of values, you can make use of between operator or greater than or less than. Or if you want to avoid null values, you can make use of is not null. Okay. But when it comes to like description form, you know the advantage with description form, if you want to capture some part of data like begins with, starts with, or ends with, you can see you have an option to go for begins with, or you can go for ends with, right? Or contains, does not contains. These four options, I do feel these four options are very important. Begins with, like operator, contains, and ends with. Let's say if you want to, let's say I'm going to apply a filter condition on top of region and make use of description form, and you can make use of begins with. So begins with, you can type in south, correct? So let's click OK, because we do have south related information. Begins with south. Now let me create another report, or let's use the existing report. Let me edit this sample report. Let's say we have region wise some revenue. Yeah, category wise, region wise. So let me drop category or subcategory from my report. Let's place in report objects. I don't want to showcase that region wise. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the filter condition which we have created. That's what begins with south. So before applying the filter, let me execute and let's see the results just for a clarification. So we do have region wise attribute forms. I will showcase only description form. We have all these regions. Okay, so we are getting all the regions, and region wise, category wise, profit and revenue. Okay, so let's go back to design mode, and I want to apply the filter condition on top of this. Begins with south. So let's execute. So now instead of showcasing, let's say if we have only like 3 elements which starts with or begins with south. But if you have a lot of customers whose name starts with John or Adam or something like that, if you want to capture those customer names, this particular filter condition helps a lot. Something like begins with or ends with a particular naming convention or like operator, right? So these options or contains. So if you want to capture the some part of, let's say if you have unstructured data, right? If you have unstructured data and if you want to capture something like received, if you have unstructured data with some comments, and if you want to capture a specific naming convention called as received, or let's say like different whatever the keywords, if you want to capture, you can make use of filters. You can make use of filters, and in that you can straight away use contains. So click on drop down, you have an option to go for contains. Okay, so these are all the options which is available in description form. And we have difference, as I say, right? For ID forms we don't have those options, but you have an option to go for greater than, less than, or you can go for between operators, all these things. Okay, so in attribute qualification, importantly, we applied filter condition on ID forms and description forms, And we do have date related like date dimensions or date forms. Date data type is very important. Okay, so let's go for it. So we have a concept called as dynamic date. So this is very important, dynamic date functionality. Go back to MicroStrategy. So let's right click, new filter, double click. So let's say I want to apply filter condition on top of year. Just type in if you want, or you can drag and drop. These are all the flexibilities you have. So you can apply filter condition on top of ID form or in list, as we have seen, right? In list, not in list, or let's say elements. This is more flexible. You can simply select a specific year. But as I said, we have a concept called as dynamic date, correct? So click on this. You have a date form, okay? Date form. So if you want to know whether you have date forms or not, you can make use of, you can check the attribute. Okay, let's go back to schema objects here. Attributes, double click here, and you can edit year attribute. So just check whether you have date related forms or not. So we have ID forms, description forms, right? And you can see we have a date, year date. We have a column called as year underscore date from LU underscore year table. So because of this date form, okay, we have an advantage to go for dynamic date functionality. You can see, so this is what date editor. So let's say if you are going to select ID form, you don't have an option to go for date editor. But if you have a date forms, you have an option to go for date editor. So you can select a specific date or click on this date editor. So you can select a static date, or this helps a lot actually, dynamic date. One option is like, let's consider one simple example. If you are going to execute a report, every time I want to showcase previous day sales, you can make use of -1 day. Okay. If you are going to execute the report, or if it is today's date is September 20, then you are going to get the data for September 19th. So most of the cases we don't have today's data right in real time. That's the reason we can, if you want to capture only yesterday's data, you can make use of day -1. Let's say if you want to capture last year's or current year, you can make use of dynamic. Every time if you want to capture last 6 months of sales. So we have an option to go for between operator. So first I will check on this. So let's click OK, today -1. Today -1. You can also use day attribute. Anything is fine, because on top of date, I just applied a filter condition on top of date form. So let's go back to reports, right click, or let's use the existing report and just a filter, right? So, so now what I'm going to do is, let's go back to filters, public objects, filters, and you have today -1, add to report filter. So have both South begins with South, and I should get only South related data and have to showcase only yesterday's data. Okay, so let's execute and we'll verify the SQL. So we might not have data because we don't have 2020 data or even 2019, 18. Okay, but let's verify the SQL view. Go back to SQL view and you can check here. So you can see this is what the filter condition. So region name we use begins with, right? So you are getting a percentile. So that's what starts with South, and then you will get a percentile, whatever the naming convention, right? Like whatever the region starts with South. So you're getting something like operator, South percentile. So it checks with South information, South data. And we have applied another filter condition on top of year date. That's the year date column. And you can see year date equal to like 2020 09 19 September 19 2020. That's what today -1. So every time it will capture yesterday's data. If you run the same report tomorrow, it will showcase yesterday's data. That is what 2020, September 20. Okay, so this is what the exact filter condition. This is important actually. Dynamic date functionality is very important, where if you want to capture data based on a specific date, you can make use of dynamic date. And importantly, you have an option to go for between operator. So for now, let's save this, go back to filters. So let's edit today -1. So I will just showcase how to apply the filter. So you have an option to go for between. So you have today -1, or let's first you can showcase the previous, whatever the data we have. Like let's say I want to go for last 6 months of sales. Okay, so minus, you can make use of 6 months. So I want to go for last 6 months of date, and start for that specific month. I want to capture first of the month. Okay, starting day of the month. You have these options. You can adjust the date across monthly, and this is whatever the day you are going to execute the report, it will capture that 6 months of data, and I want to capture start date of that specific month. Okay, so day 1 of the month and 6 months, and today -1. So now you can go for today -1. So here I just want to capture complete 6 months of data. Today -1. Why today -1? In the sense, we know, right? So we don't have today's data. So generally, like, we don't get today's data. So the data load happens for the yesterday's data. That's the reason I want to capture the last 6 months of data. So this is what one of the important requirement to capture last 6 months of sales by making use of dynamic date or date editor functionality. Okay, so let's check. Let's save and close. I just modified the filter, and we'll go back to report. We don't have data, but at least we'll verify the SQL. So let's view SQL. Just come down here. Now you can see. So you can see March 1st, 2020, and the date between, you can see between March 1st, 2020 till current date. So September 19, 2020. Okay. So you can adjust the date based on the filter condition, whatever the requirement. Based on that, you can adjust the date. So this is what one of the important functionality when it comes to like attribute qualification. So we are done with attribute qualification, and we do have set qualification. So in set qualifications, we can go for metric and relationship filters. So we have set qualification here. So let me showcase that. Let's go back to filters. Just right click, new. You can make use of shortcut. Basically, on top of attributes, we can apply the filter on top of metrics. But here we have a set qualification instead of metric qualification, because we have a couple of functionalities where you can see metric, and also we have a concept called as relationship filter. So we'll explain what is relationship filter. First, we'll go back to metric qualification. So as I said, in set qualification, we do have metric qualification, and we do have relationship. So we have relationship filter, and you can also go for metric qualification. On top of metric, we can apply filter condition on top of values, metric values, rank, and percentage. Percent, not percentage. So let's check on this. So we have a metric qualification. So we have seen a condition on top of attributes where you can apply filter condition on top of attribute ID form, description forms, and we have also seen date related forms as well. And for metrics, right? So for metrics, you can select a specific metric So just browse, go back to sales metric, and let's say on top of profit, click OK. So these are all important functions where you can see you can apply or you can create a qualification on top of metric by making use of metric value, rank, and percent. That's what I have said, right? So on top of metric value. So let's say if you want to go for greater than or less than, so let's go for greater than or equal to. So I will go for 1 lakh, greater than or equal to 1 lakh, greater than or equal to, sorry, let's select greater than or equal to 1 lakh. So click OK. Let's save. So I use profit. So profit greater than or equal to 1 lakh. Now let's create a new report here. I will use subcategory, or you can also make use of some monthly sales. Let's make use of subcategory wise profit. We use profit as a condition in the set qualification. So have subcategory wise profit. Let's execute the report first and we'll verify whether we have greater than or equal to 1 lakh. Yes, we have, and you can make use of sorting, make use of descending order. So these are all the subcategory values which shows greater than 1 lakh profit, correct? So now let's go back to design mode. Let's go for filter condition, public objects, filters, and we applied the filter condition on top of profit is greater than 1 lakh. Let's execute. So you're getting proper data which shows profit greater than 1 lakh. And yeah, and we have to verify the SQL. Let's go back to SQL view. And as I said, in few cases, you are going to get the condition, right? So we discussed, right? So when it comes like report filter, let's see here. So report filter, as I said, it impacts in where clause of the SQL, but sometimes it impacts in having clause. So because of the metric values, so you can see the condition in having clause, and you can also see a temporary table is created for that specific condition, and it calculates the result. It stores that result in the temporary table, and in the final pass, it is we are getting the data from that specific information. So this is what, or let me showcase. Let me save the report so that you'll get proper SQL. So let's execute. Let me save this report. Profit greater than 1 lakh. Straight away you can make use of SQL view SQL, so that we don't get unwanted passes in between the SQL. So this is what it creates, a temporary table for that subcategory ID. And first it is calculating the sales greater than 1 lakh, and it is storing that specific information in the temporary table. And in the final pass, it is calling the same temporary table based on the results, whatever the results we got, right? We are getting those results based on subcategory ID. And that's what this is what the results. So you're getting profit greater than 1 lakh. So important thing is like, so whenever you're going to apply the filter, it impacts in where clause of the SQL, and few cases when it comes like metric values, it impacts in having clause of the SQL. That is very, very important. So this is what metric values. On top of values, you can make use of filter condition based on the result. If you're aware of the data, then it's good. You can apply the filter condition, or as you know, right, we can also make use of view filter. So let's go back to view filter, and you can also apply the condition. So on top of profit, you can also go for profit exactly or greater than or equal to, because you know the data. After execution, it will display all the results, and you know the data, and you can also apply the filter condition on top of that specific information. So that's what the advantage with view filter. After execution, if you want to apply the filter condition, you can apply the same filter condition. So this is what set qualification. set qualification, not set qualification, metric qualification on top of metric values. So importantly, like we have rank. So let me showcase that example as well. So click on new filter. So just double click here, set qualification. So we need to, you can also type in actually. So you can type in, let's say profit. You'll get the profit related information here. The type is metric. That's the reason we are getting all these metric types. Select profit, click OK. And we have seen metric values. So let me showcase all the options. If you want to go for between operator, you can select between or less than, or if you don't want to capture null values, you can make use of null is not null. So the other option is like rank. So let's say if I want to apply a rank based on the metric value, you can make use of rank. So let me showcase that. So exactly, or let me go for top five subcategories, click OK. Based on profit. So let's go back to reports. We have this report. Let me use the existing report. Let's remove this filter. Go to public objects, filters, and we do have top 5 based on profit. Add to report filter. So let's execute. And straight away we are getting those top 5 records, correct? So this is where you can also make use of top 5. And we have an advantage with rank. Let's say in few cases I want to display top 5 based on a specific level. So let me showcase that. So let's say if you have category as well, category wise top 3 records, every category wise top 3. So let me add category to the report. So let's go back to design mode, and you can go back to filters. So the requirement is I do have, let's remove this first. Let me tell you the requirement. I have category wise, subcategory wise profit. Let's execute. Here I just applied sorting, but here each and every category wise. Okay, so let's go back to data, advanced sorting. You can clear this sorting. Okay, remove all. I don't want to go for sorting. So this is the default. So you have books, electronics, movies, and music data. Okay, and I want to showcase top 3 subcategories based on the category. So for each and every category, I want to showcase top 3 subcategories. In that case, you can go back to the same filter, top 5, right? So let me rename it's top 3 based on profit and profit category level. Okay, so now let's edit this. Double click and let's use top 3, and we have an option called as break by. You can see within the filter you have an option to go for break by. Select break by. So and you need to select across that specific level. So I need to select category level. So click OK. So let's edit. Sorry, it's got saved. Okay, let's go back to reports folder. This is the report. So I have category wise, subcategory wise profit, and you can make use of filters. Top 3 based on profit category level. Let's execute. You can see for each and every category, I'm getting only 3 records. You can make use of sorting, and you can showcase that results, but you got the results, right? So for each and every category, I'm getting top 3 subcategories. So this is what one of the important requirement when it comes to like set qualification. You can apply rank, and you can also apply rank across a specific level to showcase some part of data. So this is what set qualification rank. So on top of metric, we can metric values, we can apply filter condition. This is a filter. We are not doing any calculations. So we're just showing those number of records based on the condition. And we can also apply rank, and you can showcase top 5, bottom 5, and all those things. Percent is purely based on number of records. It's not percentage of total or something like that. So percent, because we are applying a filter, if you want to showcase some part of data based on the number of records, we have an option to go for percent. Let me showcase the simple example. Right click, new filter. So double click here, set qualification. So let me use profit. Percent. Click on drop down. If you want to showcase top 50%, as I said, right, overall 100%, it takes number of records. Let's say if you have 100 records, it will showcase top 50 records in your report. So let me save this top 50%. So let me create a report so that you'll get more clarity. Let me create a new report. Let's say I have subcategory metrics, sales metrics, profit. Let's execute the report first. We'll check the number of records here. The total number of records is 24. And if you want, let's use sorting so that you'll get proper idea whether it is picking the top 50% records or not. Okay, so now let's go back to public objects, filters. Let's go back to design mode, sorry. Public objects, filters, and top 50 percentage. Right click and add to report filter. Now let's execute this report. Overall is 24, right? So we have 24 records when it comes like subcategory. So now I'm able to see 12 records because 50%. So whatever the number of records we have in the report, it showcases half of the records. That's what the advantage with percent. So it's not like percentage calculation, but generally it will showcase metric percent top 50. Okay, this is an example. If you want to showcase half of the records, or let's say top 10 records, top 10 in the sense it depends on the number of records. If you have 100 records, so if you want to capture top 10 or 10% of records, okay, let's say if you have 1,000 records, if you want to capture 10% of records, something like that, or 1%. Clear? So based on the requirement, you can make use of percent, but most of the case we don't get these kind of filters in real time. But as you see, like metric qualification, right? So we have on top of metric values, we can apply condition like greater than or less than, all these options. And we have rank, you can showcase top 5, top 10, or bottom 5, bottom 10. And or you can also break by, you can use break by across different levels. That's what one more advantage. And percent, as I said, like we have an option to go for filter condition based on number of records. If you have 100 records, and if you want to showcase half of the records, you can make use of percent, and you can use top 50 or bottom 50, depends on the requirement. So this is what attribute qualification and set qualification metric. So in the next class, we'll discuss about relationship filter. and the other types of filters. So we have relationship filters, and we can discuss, because relationship filter, and we do have a shortcut to report. So basically we'll differentiate these two, then we can discuss like shortcut to filter and advanced qualification. Yeah, thank you all.